Hi there, I'm Alex Jardine, one of the travel specialists here at Aardvark McLeod, and today I'm going to be talking to you about Norway and the land of big Atlantic salmon. So Norway has a fantastic and long storied history about salmon fishing, particularly with sort of the wealthy British salmon lords visiting the country in the mid 19th century, and they were deemed the lax lord or salmon lords. And from there, Norway's really grown a fantastic reputation for world-class salmon fishing, particularly with fish of 30, 40, 50 pounds, and sometimes even bigger. And whilst obviously those fish aren't as numerous today, there's still a lot of them out there, and there's some fantastic rivers to target them on. Famous rivers such as the Outer, which many of us would love to fish but are very difficult to get onto. But rivers that are also easier to get onto, such as the Gowler, the Namsen, the Orkla, Laxelva, to name just a few. But there are dozens of other fantastic salmon rivers up there. Norway as a country is a very long and linear country, running north to south or south to north, depending on how you have to look at it. And all along its coastline, there's fjords cutting in from the sea. Sadly, over recent decades, there's been a lot of salmon farming in these fjords, but some of them are still left untouched. But where these fjords come in, the salmon follow them up, and leading on from those are often a sort of network of rivers that go up into the mountains. And it's these rivers that provide the playground for us salmon anglers. And so running from south to north, there's a lot of variety between the different rivers. Some of them are small canyon rivers, others more windy, slow rivers. Some are glacial fed, so they have that sort of bluey green coloration to them, whereas others rely a lot more heavily on rainfall. So they have almost a golden tinge to them, and the rich forestry, sort of pine trees and fir trees that line the riverbanks. Can sometimes give some of the top mountain streams quite an acidic water and heavily tannin stain the water. So quite a few of the rivers run either a golden color or almost a copper or tea color. The season's very short across the whole country, running from the 1st of June to the 31st of August for Atlantic salmon. Some of them do have a 2-week extension into September, but most of them fall within that 3-month window. And what we tend to find is, whilst the fishing varies from river to river and across the season, for the most part, a lot of those rivers have a prime time that runs roughly from about the 2nd week in June to, say, the 2nd week in July, and then has another good period around about August. A little bit further in the northern part of the country, in kind of Finnmark, right up at the top, you might find that the fishing prime time shifts a little bit later in the season, with a lot of the July and August weeks being prime time. And anyone who's done a lot of their salmon fishing, say in Iceland, where they're used to having a river and a lodge that looks after one whole catchment, might be a bit surprised when they first go to Norway, because the fishing there is much more akin to Scotland, where you have lots of different landowners and leaseholders, and it's a patchwork of different ownership as you go up each valley. And with that comes some difficulties when finding fishing, in that some owners might have 200 yards, some will have 2 kilometers, and so on. So we work very hard to hand select the lodges that we think will give the best experience, both in terms of what you get with water, whether that's a a series of continuous beats or whether they have a dotting of beats up and down the river, but also off the water. So they've got good lodging, nice staff to look after you, good guide teams where that's possible. So really what we try and do is pick the venues that are right for the people that contact us. So always come to us with a handful of questions, let us know the experience that you want, and we'll try and hand select the lodges that will best suit you. Also, the lodges that we work with them because they have a good ethos towards salmon fishing as a whole. Salmon is obviously an increasingly hard species to target around the world, and it faces a lot of difficulties. So we do our best to work with lodges that follow the same line of thinking of us. They sort of promote good catch and release, good fish handling, and try and fish in the most sustainable way as possible. I think what's really key whenever anyone talks to me about salmon fishing in Norway is to set the right expectation of what you might experience when you're fishing there. It's not the likes of Iceland or Russia where you might encounter large numbers of fish on a regular basis. You're fishing to clusters of fish as they move up, or maybe resident fish that you're working hard to get to take. So a reasonable catch expectation in a week is probably 1 to 3 salmon, which doesn't sound like a lot, but actually once you get into the rhythm, you do find that you're getting fairly regular takes. You might be getting a take a day or a couple of takes a day, so you always feel like you're in with a good chance of catching, and then on really good weeks you can catch 3, 4, 5, even 6 fish or more. So it's not that you can't catch more than that, but if you're planning a trip there, definitely go with the expectation of 1 to 3 salmon, and then hopefully you'll be surprised with more. Within those 1 to 3 fish, there's a really good chance of catching a fish over 20 pounds on a lot of the rivers. Some of the rivers like Latselva, there's a really good chance of fish of 30, 40, even 50 pounds. So that's really what you're going for. You're going for the quality, i.e. the bigger fish rather than quantity. While some of the rivers do have strong grill runs where you can maybe catch a few more fish, generally the reason why we're looking at Norway is to target those big Atlantic salmon. And they run hard through the latter parts of May throughout June. So if you're keen on fresh silverfish, you'll typically pick up those big fish, silver in June. Further north again on Latselva, you can be picking up fresh silver big fish all the way through to the latter days in August. And every river really has a good chance of a fish over 30, if not 40 pounds. But certainly around the middle parts of Norway, so the Gaula, the Orkla, those chances are slightly fewer, but slightly higher of getting a fish over 20 pounds. So that's why you're going. In terms of tactics, you do have to vary the tactics through the season between rivers, but generally a good idea is a lot of the rivers will be double-handed setup, so 13 through to 15 foot rods. And then personally, I like to have a shooting head system rather than full spey lines, but that's a personal preference. And the reason for the shooting heads is it allows you to change lines quickly and change your presentation. So whilst most of the time I'll be fishing a floating line or a float hover intermediate, so being able to fish the fly quite high in the water. This is particularly good around the latter part of June through July into August when the water's warmer. If you're fishing earlier in June, you might find that you're fishing heavy sinking lines a lot more because you're fishing a lot more snow runoff and the water's a lot cooler. So at those times, the fish are less likely to come up through the water to intercept the fly. Then in terms of leaders, fish strong leaders. Almost wherever you go, you'll rarely ever go under 20 pounds in terms of leader. And then as you sort of in July, you might not go under 25 pounds, and in June, you might not go under 30 pounds. Because generally, the earlier in the season, the rivers are bigger, the fish are stronger because they're fresher. So you don't want to lose fish to tackle failure. It's inevitable every season that people will lose fish to broken hooks, broken leaders, broken fly lines, reels give up. So you do want to make sure that you've got everything in your favor, checking your leader on a regular basis, using a proper reel, i.e. one with a decent drag that you'll be able to hold the fish, and a rod to suit the scenario in front of you. So if you're fishing big water, go up to your 15-foot 10-11. As the water drops, then you can scale it back. But even with the 13 foot, you'll still be fishing a 9-10. You won't want to be going down to a 7-8 in a lot of scenarios. And then leader length will be dictated to by the river and the conditions at hand, and the line you're using in the fly. And then flies, again, do vary from river to river, but a few favorites: sunray shadow, as always, or a monkey if you want to similar fly to the sunray, but sinking down a bit further. For me, one of my favorites for Norway is a fatagorva, which is a lovely sort of auburny brown wing fly, and it works particularly well when the rivers go that kind of tannin golden color. The Green Highlander is another good one. And then also for me, if you're planning on fishing towards the latter parts of July into August, when you might be faced by lower water conditions, it's a really good idea to pack some hitch tubes. Not many people fish them in Norway, and they are incredibly effective. But also try dead drifting bombers and just doing stuff that's different to what the fish are normally used to seeing. Fly size will also vary as you go through the season. So again, you'll find that those June weeks, you'll be fishing big flies. And then as you progress into the latter stages, you're often scaling that back to either sort of half-inch, quarter-inch tubes, or even sort of small doubles. So I think one of the great things about Norway is it's an incredibly versatile fishery. You've always got a chance of catching something big. They're beautiful river valleys to fish in, whether you're on the Gowler, the river of silver and gold, where you've got this winding golden river going through a mixture of sort of farming land, lovely hillsides. Or if you're right up in Finnmark on Laxelva, where there's reindeer wandering across the road and the river's gently winding, lovely easy wading up there, but a chance of a really, really big fish as well. So really there's a river and a lodge for everyone in Norway, particularly if you're looking to target big Atlantic salmon. So if you'd like to discuss the right lodges for you, please do get in contact, have a chat with us, and we'll try and give you the best information for a trip that's suited to you. I do hope that you found this video useful. Please do give it a like, comment in the chat below if you have any questions, and do remember to give our channel a subscribe and come back and watch us for more. And we hope to join you on the river soon. Thank you for watching.